Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals, and what is Honerva doing? With all the chaos that ensued post-Season 7, there's a few things that have scarcely been discussed. One of those things is the cliffhanger Season 7 left us on. An Altean was unconscious in a robot. Why was this? What's it leading up to? Season 7 takes place 3 years after Season 6. Everyone in the universe, except for Team Voltron, experienced those 3 years. A lot happened in that time, including something to the Altean colony. Colavan told the team that he got Crowley and Keith's message about the colony. The Blades went to visit it, but they found nothing. This druid stated that Honerva abandoned them. She is no longer their leader, and they haven't seen her in years. There's a good reason for this. In Season 6, Haggar was able to spy through Crone's eyes. Crone was there when Keith returned from his 2-year journey through the Quantum Abyss with Cosmo, Crowley, and Rommel. He heard Rommel's story, and because he heard it and saw an Altean, so did Haggar. In the years Haggar has been gone, she went to the Altean colony. Haggar has always had the ability to turn creatures into robots. As an Altean alchemist, she has the ability to manipulate quintessence. Her powers were incredible. However, thanks to her being able to enter Orient, those powers only grew. Josh Keaton, Shur's voice actor, said the episode The Feud contained a lot of foreshadowing. I believe one of these pieces of foreshadowing is from the short conversation fake LOTOR and fake Haggar had.
I spent centuries perfecting my exquisite, lifelike renderings. Not that you cared.
I treasure your art.
LOTOR said she never cherished his art, but she said she did. Honerva started working with Quintessence, the Rift, and the Rift creatures over 10,000 years ago. Not too long ago, LOTOR carried on her work. He always adored the stuff Alteans could do. LOTOR carried on her work with the Rift. But the thing was, in order to do that, he had to use Quintessence from Alteans. He took his continuation of her work too far. He found Alteans and harvested their life forces. By doing this, they became almost lifeless. All that was sustaining them were these capsules they were in, but even those looked like they had been abandoned for a while. I believe after LOTOR realized plain Altean quintessence wouldn't work to get him into the Rift, he abandoned the site. I also believe LOTOR was planning on replenishing these Altean's quintessence after he went into the Rift to gather an unlimited amount. That's supported by this line of his.
We would only extract as much quintessence as could be replenished.
Not to mention, Rommel didn't know the full story.
I knew the truth, or at least part of it.
After LOTOR abandoned the colony, Honerva took over, and what she did there could perhaps be even worse than what he did. LOTOR continued her work, and she continued his. She cherishes his work. The colony was a simulation in a Allura base. Honerva wiped the simulation, getting rid of the evidence. She used LOTOR's work to reap these Alteans' quintessence, siphoning off their life forces for her own uses. This was foreshadowed in the episode Monsters and Mana, another seemingly light-hearted episode. The evil wizard Dakin siphoned off the life forces of the people from Block's village.
I've already siphoned off their life force.
Although Haggar's an evil witch, not wizard, this still applies. The technology LOTOR used to suck quintessence from the Alteans is essentially what Haggar used to suck quintessence from planets, the Komar. After many seasons, it returned. Honerva rebuilt it in the form of this robot with the help of the Alteans. She placed an Altean with strong powers from the colony inside the Komar mecha. Her quintessence was drained in order to power it, but she could replenish it by sucking quintessence from other sources. Now there are a few options for how/why this Altean was piloting the mecha. Honerva could have been controlling her actions, like she did with Crone, and like how the alternate reality Alteans took away people's free will. The other option is this Altean was more willing to pilot it. Honerva made herself seem like she was the good guy to the colony Alteans. She told them LOTOR and Voltron failed them, but she would make things right, causing the colony Alteans to follow her lead. Or Honerva merely threatened them to do her bidding. If they didn't, they'd end up like the Alteans in the pods. Okay, so we've established why the colony is empty, where Honerva disappeared to, and why there was an Altean in the season final. Now we need to figure out where this is going to lead the Endgame in the next season, the final season. The biggest fight of the series is just around the corner, and it all leads back to the villain who's been puppeteering everyone from the beginning. It was never meant to be Zarkon, or LOTOR, or Sendek who was the main antagonist. Why did Honerva send an Altean mecha to Earth to fight Voltron? What is she still fighting for? Her goals are different than the average Allura warlord. It's not exactly universal domination for herself personally that she strived for. She let others do that while she took the back seat and guided them. She doesn't put herself in the spotlight typically. Honerva from the beginning wanted knowledge. She's prepared to go into dangerous territory for that. Honerva doesn't just want Voltron because it's a war machine. She wants it because it's a trans-reality vehicle. Her goal has been to enter the rift like it was for LOTOR. Since LOTOR'S trans-reality vehicle is missing somewhere, she needs Voltron. I also think Honerva's need for Voltron is a little more personal. She said the events that transformed her into the witch Haggar shrouded any maternal instinct she had for her son.
Also shrouded any glimmer of maternal instinct I may have had for my one and only child.
But her actions and what has been said by the crew goes against her words. The way she reacted to seeing this flashback of LOTOR and finding out he might have died at the hands of Zarkon says it all. She spied on him because she cared about him. Honerva is not happy about what Voltron did to her son. She wants him back whether she'll admit it or not. The generals tease the idea of him being alive.
If Voltron survived, do you think that means LOTOR is still alive?
And you know, they didn't actually show him die on screen. When that happens, it's usually pretty likely the character will return. Yet it's not even Honerva's pursuit of knowledge or her love for LOTOR that's been driving her to do all these terrible things. It's the rift creatures. They amplified the bad in her, brought it to its fullest power. Like how quintessence amplifies both the bad and the good in people. The purest essence reveals their intentions.
Zarkon fell prey to his own evil instincts. The quintessence field didn't create them, it revealed them.
All those years ago, Honerva fell ill. Alpha put it down to prolonged exposure to quintessence. However, the way Honerva looked was trained. It was much more similar to the look of the Alteans whose quintessence was sucked out of them. What if it was the creatures who were getting to her, harvesting her life force? Monsters and Mana provided more foreshadowing through Dakin. Kran said Dakin wasn't the big boss. He served someone.
Wait until you find out who Dakin was working for. Maybe you'll finally be able to avenge your master.
And as I explained thoroughly in my Monsters and Mana video, the person Dakin was serving was the Leviathan demon, the creature that killed Shiro's master, which was why Kran said maybe if Shiro found who Dakin was serving, he could avenge his master. Dakin represents Honerva, the Leviathan demon is the rift creatures. She's serving them, and so is Zarkon. They were both affected by them, as you can tell by their glowing eyes. And LOTOR was too, since Honerva was pregnant with him when she went into the rift. Exposure to the rift creatures also changed Honerva's and LOTOR'S cheek marks. Honerva's cheek marks used to look like the average Alteans. The more corrupted she got, the longer the cheek marks grew. LOTOR'S marks are longer than the average Alteans. And the Black Beard, when LOTOR'S, Zarkon's, and Crone, who was being controlled by Haggar's hands, was in its corrupted form, which makes it sharper than usual. They've all been serving a higher force. Knowingly or unknowingly, it mind-swished them. I expected to see the rift creatures before Season 8, since I do believe they're the big bad of the series if there isn't a goddess or pub-like force. And I thought if we didn't see them before Season 8, they'd feel like a rushed big bad. I do still stand by that. I know quite a few people in real life who casually watch Voltron, and practically all of them have forgotten the dark creatures even exist at this point. Legitimately, every season since Season 3 I make a new video on the dark creatures just waiting for them to return. Nevertheless, we did get a small tease of the rift creatures in Season 7, in the foreshadowing episode The Feud Once Again. At the very end of the episode, creepy music played while we saw Queen Luxia's kingdom. Luxia's kingdom housed the Baku Garden, which housed the rift creatures.
The last thing I remember is that organism in the garden falling from space.
That description doesn't fit a sea serpent, and the Baku Garden could mind-switch people, just like the rift creatures did to the Galra royal family. Queen Luxia was the first of the mer people to end up under their influence. Empress Honerva was the first on Dibazal.
Aha! Mind-swishing! It was the plant the whole time, and the queen was the first one to be mind-controlled.
The Baku harvested their life forces. The creatures mind-switched the mer people so that they could use their life forces to help power the creatures.
It is time to return to the giver of life.
That's what the rift creatures got the royal family to do.
The Baku has been harvesting us all. We are its food source.
The creatures are going to have to return next season as it is the final. They're getting Honerva to do their dirty work by getting Voltron to open their pathway. They've been taking her quintessence. They want the life forces of the people from Voltron's reality, their quintessence. They want vessels they can use. Notice the similarities in color scheme between the rift creatures and the Comar's Blast. The Comar has the ability to suck quintessence. If the creatures return through the rift, they might end up encountering LOTOR or Rift Mad, or Honerva ends up fishing him out. They did say she's not happy about what happened to him. Besides, the rift has always been a focus of hers, and she has a connection to the rift creatures. It's been hinted that LOTOR will return. There's a new Voltron Coalition Handbook. At the end of the book, LOTOR wrote a letter. The way he talked about things suggests he wrote this after the whole Season 6 ordeal. He talks about how he's going to return to crush Voltron, and it ends with this ominous picture of him. He's almost definitely making a comeback, and probably with the rift creatures in him. Now, for how certain Alteans we all know and love fit into this. Honerva may be able to use Ramel to help her achieve her goal. Look at the way she was framed in the shot, behind the other two in the shadows, same as LOTOR was in the scene with Allura, and look at how that turned out. Honerva has leverage on Ramel. Honerva has the people she grew up with. Maybe she can tempt her with bringing her brother Bandor back. Maybe this lady is related to Ramel in some way even. Not to mention, in 80s Voltron there was this.
That's Haggar! Cheesy saw through her disguise.
In 80s Voltron, Haggar used Ramel multiple times. Although Ramel didn't want to be used for these purposes, she was very much on Team Voltron's side. Allura can be manipulated with promises of hope for Altea. Honerva has the colony Alteans, Allura's people. She can easily attempt to use that against Allura. In 80s Voltron, Allura was able to help Haggar unlock her former good self in a mindscape. Allura is the only one on Team Voltron who's had an inkling of suspicion that Haggar is Honerva. Unless Shiro somehow knows now because of Crone. Allura's known Honerva since she was a baby. She fought Haggar back in Season 2. Allura will do so again. Creation versus destruction.
He told me that there are those with the power to destroy, and those with the power to create.
Allura might be able to defeat the remains of Haggar once and for all. This time, she'll try to get Honerva to see what she's done wrong, appeal to her love for LOTOR and Zarkon, and show her what their obsessions did to them and what they've done to her and the universe. Her old self is still there, not only in terms of looks, but in mind. I can imagine Honerva having some kind of sacrifice by the end of the series. LOTOR will be a part of this. It's going to hurt her to see what the rift creatures have done to her son. Her love for him will prevail against the rift creatures that affected her. She grew ill and went into the rift for the first time while pregnant with him. The rift saved her and LOTOR's lives at a cost. If it wasn't for this event back then, LOTOR wouldn't be alive. It saved him, and Honerva will save him again. At least she'll want to make amends for her past mistakes. The trouble she did to him, the pain she caused him. LOTOR went down the same path Honerva and Zarkon did. In her Haggar mindset, she praises him for that. In her Honerva mindset, she won't want him to go through all the awful stuff she did and has done to people. Either she's going to sacrifice herself saving LOTOR, or a more tragic outcome. One of them kills the other. If Honerva, well, she'd be more like Haggar if she did this, were to kill LOTOR, she'd soon regret it after, making her understand the full implications of her actions. If LOTOR kills Honerva, like what happened in the very original version of Voltron, Go Lion, she'll apologize to him just before she dies. LOTOR's more emotional side will briefly flicker back if this happens. Same as what happened to Crone when Keith said, "You're my brother, I love you." He stopped for a second. LOTOR's love for Honerva will shine through once again, causing the rift creatures to start losing control of him. LOTOR being the one to tell Honerva the end is near is potential foreshadowing for LOTOR killing her.
The end is near, witch. I know you can sense it. If you beg for your life now, maybe I will take pity on you when the time comes.
And in the end, Allura can restore the life of the drained Alteans with her alchemy. The colony is way too detached from the rest of the universe for the Alteans to return to, so perhaps Earth will be their new Altea, a home for them like it is many other aliens right now. But anyway, thanks for watching, and Rapidsa.
Luxia's kingdom, so safe and warm you'll want to stay forever!